Hi, welcome. This is Bridget Borsdorf here, success coach, and I help people just like you grow their private practice to have the ultimate passion, purpose, and profit. I really, truly believe that deep inside you, you have a purpose, and when we start to grab onto that, it allows us to take some massive action in our lives and fulfill all of our dreams. So I'm very glad that you're joining me today in the Goal Setting Mastery Workshop. I promise you that this is going to be a surefire way for you to be able to kind of implement some things into your business today and onward that are going to help you progress and grow in ways that you never even thought possible. So this is the exact process that I use, the exact methodology that I use on a daily, monthly, and weekly basis to be able to set goals for myself and be able to attain those goals in a way that feels productive to me, but also doesn't leave me feeling completely devastated, like nothing's happening, nothing's moving, there's no momentum. It genuinely is a approach that can become easily integrated into your daily life and really help create so much expansion in your business. And I'm so excited to be able to share that with you. So I would love to really just be able to get started. And by doing that, I would love if you could open up your workbook that was included with this workshop so you can follow along. I'm going to go ahead here and share my screen with you so that way you can follow along with me. Here we go. Share screen. Awesome. So hopefully you can all see this. And your workbook should look similar to this. What I have pulled up on the screen. The top is just say Dream Big, Achieve Big, my name, and then Goal Setting Mastery Workshop. So I think it's important for us to kind of just note to begin with that really that as therapists, sometimes we get kind of stuck in our box of what is attainable and possible for us. So in another intention in us really hashing out some of these goals and seeing ourselves achieve them is to really kind of prove to ourselves that there's really nothing that is too big or too small for us to be able to go after. So that's why I entitled this Dream Big, Achieve Big. I just like many of you out there have felt in that kind of box of I can only go this far, or I can only make this much, or I can only reach this many people. And part of our process today is going to really help kind of debunk that for you and realize that anything that you desire or you want or that you need within your business or even in your life is going to be totally possible for you. Awesome. So, let's pull that back up here. Super. Okay, so let's jump in. Just to talk about some other intentions of this workshop, it's really for you to learn a system to create and achieve goals in a way that feels meaningful and purposeful to you. I think when we think about goal setting, it feels kind of like homework or like a task or like something like, I don't really want to do. And that's why I created this particular system and this method, because I wanted to be able to meet specific goals in my life, but have them feel like they had a great sense of meaning to me and a great sense of purpose to me. So as I walk you through this process, and I'll be using my own goals that I have right now to be able to kind of demonstrate this for you. And you'll see, we could talk about goals in regards to the financial piece, but we can also talk about goals in regards to just what you want your space and your time and energy to look like in your life. So goals don't just orient to, the very practical pieces and components of business. They also extend out of that to really help you understand and develop a sense of you and your business kind of being this synchronous entity rather than being separate from one another. So I'm going to be your guide today. I'm hoping that during this workshop, you're going to be able to put down some goals that you have in mind, and then allow me to work with you to walk you through the process so you can have a really clear sense of how to proceed after you end this workshop today. Also, as you know, this workshop is accessible to you forever. So if I'm going too fast or you didn't quite catch something, know that you can certainly come back and watch the replay of this to be able to follow through these steps very clearly. If you haven't realized this already, I speak from my heart. This work is really important to me. Helping therapists foster a private practice that is really not only profitable for them, but also helping them have influence and impact on their communities is really my soul's purpose in this life. I believe that there are a lot of not very good therapists in this world, and those that are really good therapists in this world often get very jaded by entering into the realm of private practice because it just doesn't work in a way of flow that they want it to. And so I've really made it my mission to, continue to culminate really quality, solid, incredible therapy professionals, and then also, help them see the possibilities and what exists for them in getting their message out. So an effort for me to do that, I have to be real, and I have to be honest, and I have to be open. And nothing that I ever offer any of my clients or any of my coaching clients is something that I have not used myself. I'm certainly always implementing new strategies and techniques that I utilize in my own life, and then, assess the results and how that works, and then, potentially share those things with you. So know that the system that we're working with today, like I said before, I use this on a regular basis, and I'm sharing it with you because I know that it works, and I know that it can have a huge impact on your business and in your life. So as I mentioned, this training is really my own personal goal to be able to impact and influence you and many other therapists today. So it seems only appropriate to kind of begin with just setting an intention or a goal for today. I think it's important, I know we are all really busy and there's a lot of distractions and things oriented in our life. But I think it's so important to really allow yourself to have this time. Allow yourself to dive into this. You've made an investment in this. And so now carry that investment out and invest in yourself for these 45 minutes to really be able to allow this information to integrate and allow this information to kind of speak to you. I notice that I tend to get more overwhelmed when I'm like doing all different things all at once. So this is, a workshop that has a interactive component to it. So just allow that to really guide you here and minimize the alternate distractions that you may have. So close any other browsers or anything else that might be on your screen that could potentially hook you to go elsewhere. All right. So let's begin by setting that intention and that first goal. I would love for you to just, oops, I keep doing that. Here we go. I would love you to just be able to establish what is your goal for our time together today. So something, you saw this and something drew you to this particular workshop, and whether that was because you've tried setting goals in the past and they just haven't come to fruition, whether that is you're kind of like really up against the wall right now in your private practice and there's not momentum and it's not going anywhere and you're looking for some different implementation to be able to make that happen. Or, it just kind of, piqued your curiosity. whatever it might be, I really want you to be intentional about what your goal is for our time together. Because being intentional about things, I think, sends a really strong, energetic message into the universe, into our world, to really create kind of a vibrancy around vibrancy and accountability around that particular thing. So when we say it out loud or we write it down, we've now extended a commitment to wanting that to come to fruition or wanting that to be created. So I would love for you right now to just write down, what you would like for our time together today. Beautiful. Okay. So, big breath as we get into this. So, I want to know what happened in your mind when you set that goal. And what I mean by that is, did you have to think about it? Did it come freely? Were there a lot of expectations? Were you blank? So when we try to set an intention or we try to set a goal, our mind often intervenes. I know for me, sometimes when I set a goal, my mind tends to want to intervene with, no, that's not possible. No, that's not going to happen for you. Why are you even writing that down? That's not even a thing, right? So we really have to trust this mind piece, because our mind is a really powerful tool in a lot of positive ways, but it's also a really powerful tool in kind of sabotaging the things that internally that we really truly desire and that our heart space is really craving and yearning for, right? It's interesting. Our heart doesn't really have as much of a voice, but our cognitive brain has this very loud voice, or our ego, or however you articulate it in your world, has a very large voice, and often plays like a lot of tricks on us to kind of keep us small. And the reason it wants to keep us small is because it wants to keep us safe. If I start to articulate bigger goals, bigger ideas, there's going to be some fear factor in that, right? If I say over the course of this next year, I want to work with 100 therapists on building their businesses. 100. That's a big number, right? And my brain says, ooh, 100, that's a lot. Oh, I don't know if you're going to have time for that. I don't know if you're going to be able to find 100 people. I don't know, right? And that's because my goal in my heart wants me to be able to grow and expand, right? If you're not growing, you're dying. So my heart desires to grow and expand, but my mind wants to keep me small and safe. So it's really important for us to acknowledge this component. So every time we create some initiative, or every time we manifest some goal or some intention, to really pay attention to what your mind is telling you about that. And it could be easy for us to just bypass and completely steamroll that particular piece and say, oh, I'm not going to listen to you, right? But I want you to pay some attention to it, because if we don't pay attention to it straight away, it's going to show up later, and it's going to be more intense, and it's going to be stronger. So I want you to find that piece. So if I'm saying that my goal for today is to be able to impact and influence you as a therapist to be able to grow and develop your practice, and my mind chimes in and says, whoa, that's some high expectations. That's a lot. To hope that the person participating in this workshop is going to be able to grow their business. Ooh, you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself, right? So I'm acknowledging that. Okay, I hear you, mind. I hear that. That's really good feedback. And I'm checking back into my heart, and I'm knowing that my heart is saying, yes, that's exactly what I want to do. Okay. So your mind's always going to play a trick on you, and it's always going to tell you to think smaller, not bigger. It's always going to say, ooh, that's too scary. That's not going to be great. Or that's a bad idea. That's not a good idea, right? So what your mind wants is not what you truly want. So I always want you to reassess that, right? And always create goals and intentions that are coming from your heart space and not your head space. So let's do this again. without limitations, without consequences, without opinions, right? I really want you to check into your heart, and I want you to see, what is your goal for our time together today? And the beauty of this is you're not having to share this with anybody. You're not having to share this with me. This is your, intimate commitment to yourself about what you hope to achieve in this particular process today. Beautiful. So I'm hoping that you found that easier, right? I'm hoping that you found it easier to be able to plug in to what your real true desires are. Because I know that if we listen to our headspace and we listen to our mind and we let our mind guide us on this journey, that those things won't come to fruition. All that will happen there is a lot of fear, a lot of grief, a lot of loss, a lot of frustration. Our mind has a tendency to orient us to the extremes of emotion rather than allow us to be self-guided and follow our intuition. Okay? Awesome. So after we really assess what's happening in our mind space, it's time for us to create some action. So action is crucial to all goal setting. I know so many people who create goals, have such a long list of goals, so many goals, and are just hoping they're going to happen. And goals just magically happening doesn't happen, right? So even though I've put out an energetic field that I want to impact and influence more therapists, that doesn't mean it's just going to happen. It might to some degree, but probably not to the level that my intuition and my heart desires, right? So if you do not have a clear way to make it happen, then it's impossible. And the mind interferes here too, right? This is another way we kind of help strategize with the mind and minimize the mind thought, because if we have a clear action plan, then we can really, anything that the mind might throw at us to say, no, that's not possible. No, you can't do that. No, you don't have the resources for that. No, that's not okay. Forget about it. It's terrible, on and on and on. When I have my clear action plan, I can burst through those barriers so much easier. So if we don't have a clear plan, until we have a clear plan, it's considered impossible, all right? If the path is not clear to you, then we need to address congruency and authenticity. This is so, so, so important. If it doesn't seem clear, right? Like if it doesn't seem clear what the action is towards the goal, then it's really important for you to reassess, is this goal congruent for me? Does it align with my values? Is it really what I truly desire? Is it really important to me? And you need to evaluate authenticity. Is this really me? Is this really what my heart wants? Is this what my intuition tells me? Because if those things aren't crystal clear, or if your action plan is not crystal clear, then that's just going to bring up a sense of reassessment because it's not congruent and it's not authentic. I know a lot of therapists will say, well, I want to make $100,000 this year. Okay, great. So then what is your path to do that? What are you planning? What action are you planning to take to make that happen? And they're blank, right? Like they're just so unclear about what that is. And that to me says, okay, then you're not really clear about that you want to make, you're not really truly authentically wanting to make $100,000 this year. It's not congruent for you to make $100,000 this year. So we can maybe see if it's the number. We can maybe see if there's something else that needs to happen before that to get to that place. It's just an opportunity to reassess. Okay? So now I want you to think big. All right, and we're going to look at this landscape of goal setting on a yearly basis today, but I want you to know that this can be pared down into monthly and also weekly, which is what I do as well, to help make the system the most effective. All right, but for today's purposes, we're going to look at it from a yearly basis. So let's look at this. What is your goal for the year? Okay, this happens to be 2017. What is your goal for this year? What are you wanting? What are you desiring? What do you think has somewhat, you might not know the whole plan, but you have a idea about how you possibly could create that, or you can make that happen. All right. So my goal for this year is to create passive income and leverage myself out of my business. So let me just articulate what that means for those of you who are not familiar with that. So basically what that means is I have several sectors of my business, and one of the sectors of my business is my one-on-one time with clients that I see therapeutically, and clients that I see is in regards to consulting. I have another sector of my business where I teach and train other therapists in the particular modality that I use in my private practice. And I mentor them, and they see clients for me in my practice. And now I'm introducing this other entity because these two entities require me to be present all the time and me be in my physical form, accessible and available. So now I'm looking and wanting to develop this third entity, which is creating passive revenue. So something like a workshop or a mini course or a masterclass or something where it doesn't require me to be physically present to work with a particular individual and have the possibility for influence and impact on their therapeutic career, right? And the intention behind that particular goal of creating the passive income is because I want to extend and have more time to be able to spend nurturing my family, nurturing my relationship, nurturing my friendships, right? I want to be able to have more time to do those things. And I've extended all of the time that I possibly have to be able to do face-to-face contact. So something like you're seeing right now, this workshop would be considered passive revenue. Okay, so that's been my goal for this year. So now I'm going to look at what are the action steps that I need to do to achieve this. And so we're going to list out 3 things that you will do on a daily basis to make this happen. So I want you to take your yearly goal that you've listed, and then I want you to write out the 3 things that you will do on a daily basis to make that happen. I'm going to pull up my, pull up my text here, maybe. Doesn't look like it's going to let me right now. I was hoping to be able to pull up my text. Oh, there we go, maybe. Doesn't look like it's going to let me pull up text here. So rather than fiddle with that, but so I want you to write down those 3 things you will do on a daily basis to make this happen. So for me, 3 things that I'll do on a daily basis to make this happen is going to be 1, learn software systems and technologies to be able to support my business in creating an automated process. Another thing that I will do on a daily basis to make this happen is be creating content and products to be able to offer through that automated system. And the third thing I will do on a daily basis to be able to make that happen is seek consult and mentorship in areas that I may be struggling or having a difficult time. Right? So this whole piece, and I think this is important for you to know, is me creating passive revenue, that being my goal in my business, is not something I'm familiar with, right? It's a new thing. It's something that I am just getting to learn. I'm not totally, aware of all the software and applications and things that I need to do that. So it's quite foreign to me. And so it's important for me to address the actions I'm going to take on a daily basis to become more familiar with it, to work towards it, to become, to have this goal be met in creating passive revenue. All right. Awesome. So next we want to acknowledge any barriers that perhaps came up in this particular process. Okay. So, I think it's so important for you to know that it's easy for us to look at external factors and forces and say, well, I can't do that because of this, or that didn't work because of this. And we are the only ones in our way of what we want to achieve. So back to the mind, your mind is naturally going to create barriers to keep you small. And safe, which is great, but in the realm of building a business and wanting to have more reach and wanting to be able to get your message to more potential clients, being small doesn't work. So our mind is going to influence us with particular barriers to say that this isn't going to be possible for us. So what we need to do is address the perceived barriers that are in our way, so that way we can get on our way. All right. So moving on, the next question is, what might prevent you from doing these 3 things you listed above? All right. And I want you to list all of them, right? There's so many things. Like for me, a friend calling me and wanting to meet me for dinner. Ooh, totally in. Forget me brushing up on my knowledge around automation today, right? I just really wanted to sleep in rather than get up and do my scheduled time to create a product. So there's going to be all sorts of things that get thrown at you to take you off this course. And if you orient your mind to be aware of what you know that could be potential blocks or barriers for you, then when they arrive, you'll say, oh, this is a block and a barrier, and you'll be able to get yourself back on track. So for today's purposes of this workshop, you probably are going to have about 100 to 200 potential barriers. Like there's a lot of barriers, right? So I want you to get all of those out, like throw them up onto this piece of paper to make sure they're all present and there, so we won't be blindsided when they appear. Okay, so you might have to come back to this section and complete that. So I want you to choose the top 3, right? So since we had limited time, you probably wrote out a couple, and I want you to choose the top 3 barriers that came to your mind, all right? And I want you to write them out here. So my first barrier that I said was a friend calling me to meet me for dinner. Okay. Great. And now I'm going to process through, before I even get there, before that barrier even emerges, I'm going to have a process around what I'm going to do when that shows up, right? So for me, I like to map out my whole schedule on my calendar of what I'm doing when, and I like to negotiate for when there is free time and free space to spend time with family or friends or something like that. So in order to prevent myself from getting the hook of the mind saying, no, go do something else. Don't work on this. This goal is not important. I'm going to, when this barrier shows up of someone calling me wanting to do something that is not work related, I'm going to be able to look at my calendar and say, does my schedule allow for me to have the free space to do that? Or was my schedule articulated for this particular hour to work on this, right? So I know I have something to go to when that barrier shows up to say, oop, accountability here. I need to hold myself accountable because this is one of my goals and I need to see this through. Okay. Another barrier I listed would be, let's see, I think this is one that most people experience, is doubt and uncertainty. I'm not familiar, like I said before, entirely with the passive revenue world. It's something that's new to me. And so it's requiring me to do a lot of research and educate myself around it. And when I feel like I don't know something, that can create a lot of uncertainty and doubt. So that potentially could be a barrier in this process, is that I'm weighed down with too much uncertainty and doubt to be able to push through and continue to work towards my goal. So when uncertainty and doubt comes up, I'm going to address that just as a function of the mind, that it's not something that is real, that it's a natural process to feel doubt or a lack of knowledge around something that might be new or different. But now I've really integrated that piece, because uncertainty and doubt is probably going to be something that comes up for all of us, no matter where we are at in this process. And this way we have a very clear idea around, oh, I know that that's one of my barriers. I know that's one of my hooks. I know that's my mind trying to keep me small. And that makes us able to bust through it and keep us back on track much more easily. All right, so there's a way for us to make this really, really easy. It may seem complex to you right now, but I'm not kidding you. I can do this, in my head, and my clients I work with also can do it in their head very easily, for goals as big as wanting to generate higher amount of income, to goals as small as wanting to keep, closer time boundaries with their client caseload or something like that. So I want you to know that if you start to feel resistant and it's not working around your goal, then it's really important for you to kind of break down the goal, action, and barrier to be more simplified and specific. So the example I put here is, the goal is I want to have 3 clients, and then the action step to making that goal happen is going to be implement a marketing strategy. The barrier that comes up, this is why this is so important, you can see immediately how this goal potentially could get just stopped in its tracks, is barrier here is not knowing how to market, right? I see this so often as we set these goals. Great goal. We all want to have, at least 3 clients. And we know that we probably have to market to make that happen. But if I don't know how to market, then am I going to be able to meet this goal? No. So I have to pull back, and I have to reassess the goal. And I have to say, maybe where I need to start and where I need to make my goal first is learning how to market, right? And then my action is going to be researching and educating myself on marketing tools and techniques. The barrier, not really liking to market. But then what can I do to acknowledge the barrier? I can say, oh, well, this is what I need to do to get those 3 clients, right? So it becomes kind of this game to be able to consistently orient away from the interjections of what your mind and your brain are going to do to try to sabotage the experience, and, move towards the opportunity to make it more clear and more centered and more directed. All right. So this is where we come in with the action towards the barrier. Okay. Because like I said before, not knowing how to market is really going to completely stop that goal in its tracks. All right. So this is where you may have set the goal. I want to have 3 clients. Your action step 1 towards doing that is going to be, like we set up here, implement a marketing strategy. All right. The barrier is going to be not knowing how to market. And then your ATB, or your action towards the goal, then gets to be learn strategies and techniques towards marketing. And that's going to bring you back up to your initial goal to be able to make that achievable. So we have to look at these barriers. And I think this is where we so often get lost in the realm of goal setting, is because we don't often look at the potential barriers that might come up and might present themselves in our process. And so when they come up strong, and they come up big, and they come up overwhelming, and it totally minimizes us and puts us in a state of defeat against our goal. But if I know what the barrier might be, then I have the possibility of being able to move through it with much more ease. Great. So I've included in here several templates for you to be able to print these out and utilize them every single month. I can't even begin to tell you how much impact this has had on the growth and development of my business. Now, including this process every single day and every single month to know where I need to be financially, what I need to be working on, what my desires are. It really helps keep accountability high since we are working in this field somewhat independently. It's important for us to have some accountability thread of our own to be able to help maintain focus and help minimize our feelings around defeat or hopelessness or it not working. Okay, so these templates are for you to use. And just to kind of reiterate, so the goal setting process is these 4 steps. It's you determine the goal, define your action steps, address any barriers, and then accomplish your goal. Easy? So easy. So there's just a few things I want you to remember, and that is that your goals are for you and no one else. So we talked about goals today really in the sense of your business, but I want you to know that you get to set goals for yourself personally as well. And that you get to kind of hold these as your, intimate space around what you want. I notice sometimes when I mention my goals to others, for example, I want to create a 6-figure business. Now I'm moving towards wanting to create a 7-figure business. That leading with that and telling people about that sometimes kind of doesn't land so well, right? And I don't want external feedback to kind of get a hook on my mind and then have me kind of rolling with this sense of, ooh, maybe I shouldn't want that, or maybe that isn't for me. Because I get to want what I want, and I get to have the desires for what I have the desires for, unless nobody else gets to have an opinion about that. Okay? So that's why congruency and authenticity are so important, because often we kind of sidetrack all of that and do what we think other people should want us to do, or what other people say we should do as therapists in this field. And I want these really truly to be yours. And the good news is you don't have to share these with anybody. They get to be yours every single month. I don't share my financial goals with people, and that's just my own desire. I don't think they need to know, right? The exact down to the finite number. And to be perfectly honest, they probably don't care, right? So you get to have whatever you want, whether that's having more freedom in your schedule, whether that's seeing more clients, whether that is being to teach and train on the particular methodology that you use, wanting to be able to become a speaker or an expert in your field, whatever it is, you get to have whatever you want. This process can be used anytime for anything, not just, like I said before, not just for business, but also your own life and your own desires around that. The more specific you are with your goals, the easier they'll be achieved. So I invite you to get down to the very specifics of what you want to create in your life and create goals oriented around those very specific things. Reassessment is not intended for your goal as wrong. It's intended to define the steps you need to take before. So we talked earlier about sometimes you have to reassess if the goal is congruent or authentic. And I want you to know that doesn't mean that the goal is wrong. It just means that it's going to help you reorient to the steps you need to have before, so that way this goal can be achieved. This whole process works so effectively to help you achieve goals. This process is addressing all facets, so that way no goal that you put on your list or no goal that you work this process with is going to be able to not be achieved. All right? So I leave you with this: is what are your dreams, your goals, and your aspirations? I want you to think outside of our box here, and I want you to think big. I know that it's my mission and my desire in my path in this life to really be able to impact and influence you, to be able to spread and expand your message in this world so we can help more and more people, because that is what this is all about. It is about making ourselves accessible to be able to touch and help as many people as we can. And if we continue to allow our minds to orient us to be small, we're never going to be able to do that. So I really want you to dream big. I really want you to make your goals big. And I really want you to put every aspiration you possibly have out into this world and really go for it. So I thank you so much for joining me today. It's been really my pleasure to guide you through this particular process and show you something that has had so much power and so much work in my own life. And I cannot wait to connect with you directly. Please, please, please send me any feedback you have or tell me how your goal process is going. I am a huge advocate for learning how the people in our community are really utilizing this work and finding it to be so effective in their own path. So thank you so much and good luck with your goal setting. Take care.